3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Queen Stage. We're here to spotlight the athletes, stories, and action in women's cycling, giving the sport the attention it deserves. And we're going to do so with the quality, depth, and personality the sport demands.
I'm Rasael Torres-Davis.
I'm Betsy Welch.
I'm Anna Maria Roque.
And I'm Molly Herford.
Hello and welcome to the Queen Stage. I'm Anna Maria Roque, and today I am joined by my co-hosts Betsy Welch and Molly Herford. If you're swifting right now, thank you for listening. We'll try to keep you entertained, distracted, and motivated. The theme of this series has been rivalries, and over the past few weeks, we've been exploring a rivalry from a few different angles. We talked about the people we line up alongside of, our training partners, our teammates, our competitors, as well as the friendships that make us better, even when we're trying to beat each other. This week, we're turning that lens inward because for most athletes, the fiercest rivalry isn't the other rider, it's themselves. It's the constant negotiation between ambition and doubt, between who you are today and who you're trying to become. It's about measuring yourself against the one opponent that's always there, yourself. And there's perhaps no better person to explore this idea with than with today's guest, Grace Brown, the reigning Olympic champion and former world champion in the time trial. Grace has spent a career competing in cycling's purest form of self-confrontation, and today we're talking about pressure, performance, self-expectation, and what it means to race against yourself.
This episode is brought to you by Rafa and Zwift, who are partnering this year around a truth anyone who's raced or chased a wheel knows. Competition pulls us forward. It's a year-long celebration running through the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift in August and the Rafa Women's 100 in September.
So join the ride and be the first to listen to the podcast episode. And don't forget to subscribe, leave us a rating, and send questions to info@queenstage.cc or find us on Instagram @queenstage.cc. Now let's get into it. Grace, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning from the past.
Yeah, I'm speaking to you from the future, so hello.
Is it better there?
It's actually a very misty morning here in Melbourne. I was briefly out on my bike this morning, and although it wasn't raining, I came back wet and muddy. So...
All right. Well, we love that you're still riding. And for those of you who don't know you, we're going to start with just like a quick little bio about Grace. And Grace, feel free to just fact check me on all of this. So you turned pro in 2018 with Wiggle High Five, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then you raced for 6 seasons. And in your final season, which was 2024, you did something rather remarkable. You won your 4th national time trial and then went on to win your first cycling monument. No big deal. Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Plus the gold medal in the time trial at the Paris Olympics. Again, no big deal. And, just final cherry on the cake, the rainbow jersey. So obviously our first question, how does one retire after a year like that? How did you know that it was time?
Yeah, I think despite all of those wins and having my best year of my career in 2024, I felt like I'd had a really complete experience in the sport and also just, being from Australia, Europe is a long way away and I missed my family a lot. So I needed to have an end point. And I think it sort of coalesced in the fact that I gave myself permission to go all in 2024 and leave no stone unturned. And that resulted in, some of my best races of my career. And even though a lot of people questioned, how can you stop when you're on top? I just felt like, I'd achieved more than my dreams, really. So I was really satisfied and it was a nice way to finish.
Pretty nice way, I'd say. And the rainbow stripes being the reigning Olympic champion as well. Now, looking back on your cycling career, who was your biggest rival? Was it another rider, the clock, or yourself?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think I I think, as you mentioned in the intro, definitely, I think for most riders, like, they're in themselves is their biggest rival. Like, of course, we have certain rivals on the road, and I probably would name, you know, Chloe Dygert or Ellen Van Dyke in time trial as two of the people I came up against the most, like neck and neck. But I didn't really see too many other people as like really my rivals. Of course, I was always trying to beat other people in races. But yeah, my main goal, even in road racing, not just time trial, was trying to get the best out of myself and, yeah, work. Sometimes your mind puts up blockages that you have to get past. So I think that's like the biggest challenge for almost any athlete.
So what does rivalry look like now that you're retired?
I try not to have any rivalries now that I'm retired.
Fair.
Yeah, I think definitely in sport, I told myself, you're going to retire. You'll probably still be okay on the bike, but you're not allowed to race for at least a year. Because I really needed to separate myself from that competitive nature and just ride my bike for the joy of it. And also, I didn't want to, go on long training rides on my own. It's like riding with friends or nothing. So it forced me to be a bit more social with my bike riding, which is nice. I think, though, like in retirement, you do need to find other ways to challenge yourself. And yeah, I needed, I think, other things outside of sport to throw myself in the deep end a little bit. So I have my own business. I launched a sunscreen in Australia. It's called Sun Motion. So that's been,
Wow.
and of course, I'm the president of the Cyclist Alliance, which is not really about rivalries. It's about helping the peloton. But I guess, yeah, the rivalries are all the things that are trying to hold women's cycling back.
We'll definitely
Okay.
talk more about that in a little bit. Yeah.
And the sunscreen, now I'm going to bookmark that because I'm very curious about that. But I'm also curious, how did it go that first year after retirement? Like, were you able to go on fun rides and not get in your head?
Yeah, I think sometimes I got in my head, like it's the ego is always a challenge. Like when you've been at such a high level in sport and then you stop and you're not training at the same level, and going on rides with people, having that feeling like everyone's expecting you to be really good. I definitely struggled letting go of that, and probably still now. Like if someone starts half wheeling me on a ride, like I'm on and I'll turn myself inside out, not to not to fail. I don't really know how to separate myself from that innate urge. But yeah, I think the like counter to that is knowing that you've got value outside of what you've achieved on the bike, and making sure that you surround yourself with people that don't actually care if you're good or not is the key.
Totally. I guess quickly though, just before we get more into your career and your story, I wanted just to zoom way out, just in case any of our listeners are newer to the sport or have questions about time trialing. Like that,
Yep.
that was your thing. It's a pretty unique part of a big stage race, or it's maybe a under celebrated part of road cycling. I'm a huge fan. Rook, Molly, I don't know about you guys, but I think we all
Definitely.
love a time trial. So, Grace, will you tell us very, very briefly what is the time trial? And then what's unique about it within the sport of bike racing?
Yeah, so the time trial is an individual event, and it is basically the rider against the clock over a certain course. So the course can change. It can be different distances. It can be hilly. It can be flat. But the aim is to go as fast as you can across that course. It sometimes is a standalone event in like championships, like national championships, world championships, continental championships. And then it often features as like a stage in a tour. So yeah, you'll have a day where every rider in the tour has to do an individual time trial, and their time contributes to their overall general classification time at the end of the race. But I guess like it's quite a specialty. And yeah, I think to be good at it, you need to put a lot of time into it. It's about pacing, aerodynamics, skill. You have a different bike that's you've got like the extensions out the front, which are some people call them skis. So you put your elbows on the pads and your arms out in front of you and try and have your head as low to your arms as possible. And it's all about having the least amount of like frontal area and reducing your drag so that you just slip through the air as quickly as possible. Yeah, and it's like it's a tough effort. You're riding, you want to get to the line completely spent. So that takes a certain type of mentality as well, I think, to push yourself to that limit. And there's some riders that are really talented, but maybe can't push themselves when they don't have their rival right next to them, and you don't know how your competitors are doing really over the same course. You'll have intermediate time checks where you might get an update of, okay, you're a couple of seconds behind or in front, that gives you an indication, but you can really have some like head games going on, not knowing exactly where you are in comparison to those people that you're racing against.
What drew you to that discipline?
Totally.
I think in my early years, like before I went pro, I realized that I was quite good at the discipline. I came from a running background, and I think that like uncomfortable effort of a running race, like you're always at this like threshold, when you're running, that transferred quite nicely to the effort on a time in a time trial. So I knew how to hold that pace of like just on the edge of too much. And yeah, I don't know. I like sometimes you're just good at something, so you fall into that rabbit hole. And I quite enjoyed as I went along just the process of improvement. Like there's so many little things that you can tinker at in terms of your position on the bike and working out how to pace a course. And yeah, all of that was just, a fun project for me. It wasn't always fun in the race, but the rest of it was like, yeah, pretty good.
I love anyone that can just say, I was good at it. And that's why I did it, because I
Yeah.
think too often we kind of like skip over that fact, but that makes perfect sense. And okay, so we were thinking about the time trial, and what I started thinking about, you sort of alluded to it already, is that people kind of oversimplify the time trial a little bit. We think of it as this mathematical exercise, and if you're putting out this exact number of watts, or you have this kind of aerodynamic advantage, or like these very like forces that we can write down and put on a whiteboard. But there's so much more to it than that, especially on the mental side and who you are that day, right? Whether you have your period that day, whether you ate something and your gut's feeling a little off. And now you can't just hide in the Peloton. You are out there and there are numbers coming up on the screen.
Yeah.
So we want to know how you got into race mode, especially on the days where you maybe when you were kind of feeling like you were going to beat you and not in a good way.
The other me was going to win. Yeah, it's interesting. I've had all sorts of different like mental experiences doing a time trial, and I think I've learnt from it a lot. For example, I mean, I think always I was able to get myself into a good frame of mind before the race and like really believe in what I can do, focusing a lot on my own race and controlling what I could control and like letting, not worrying about what my competitors were doing because that didn't really impact me. It was just like knowing that I had to get the best out of myself was really key before the race. But there were times, like for instance, in the World Championships in Glasgow, I was doing pretty well until I don't know, the back third, like the final third of the race. And then I started struggling. And I got the voice in my head was telling me that I was going too slow and that my competitors were well ahead of me, that there's no chance that I was, in this race anymore. Like, why continue putting in the effort if I was losing anyway? And it was this battle of you should just ease off and give yourself an easy ride to the finish, because what's the point? And then I finished the race and I was 5 seconds behind Chloe Dargett, who won. And that was a huge learning to me, that that my own doubt had slowed me down, and I hadn't fully backed off. I like continued racing, but it was just that like little softness in the pedaling occasionally, that like not giving 100% because I felt like I wasn't in the race. And I took that learning into the like next time trials that I did, and always in my mind was like, you're in this race, you can win it. It could be a matter of seconds and you need to use every inch of this road to win it. So that, yeah, it's really interesting how you can like, even those bad times, you use them as learnings to fuel the successes in the future.
Yeah, I was going to ask, when you're, either getting ready to race or during a race, is there a mantra? Is there anything you tell yourself that's like in the moment? Like, is it as simple as push, 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 or like, do you go blank?
In the race, I try and keep it like very process oriented in a way. Like, I'm thinking about what's coming up, how I'm going to corner, and like what power I need to do, how I can be the fastest. But there's moments like when you feel your legs and it's hurting. My mantra is always, you're strong and you can do this. When I won the World Championships in Zurich after the Olympics, I probably wasn't at my best. Like, I was at my peak for the Olympics, and then the World Championships was definitely a harder win. And I'd come through the final time intermediate check, I think 9 seconds down from Demi Vollering, so I was behind. And in the last 12 Ks, I was literally just repeating to myself, you're strong, you can be world champion. You're strong, you can be world champion. And I like and that just gave me the power to like really dig deep. And I ended up winning I think I flipped it by 16 seconds. So I ended up,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 16 seconds ahead in the end. So it was like 25 seconds that I gained. And it just shows like how important like the mental side of the event is.
Yeah, I mean, along those lines, I'm curious about your Olympic experiences because in Tokyo in 2021, you were fourth. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Yeah. And then, 4 years later, you go on to win. And it seems like you really are someone who like draws a lot from experiences, your own experiences.
Yeah.
Did you spend those 4 years between the Olympics? Like, did your result in Tokyo really influence how you spent those next 4 years leading up to Paris?
Yeah, definitely. I think I came into Tokyo maybe a bit naive about what I could achieve. So my goals, I definitely didn't expect that I would be near the podium, I think. Um, and then, I finished the race and I was on the podium, like hot seat, I think. And Anna van der Breggen was the last rider across the line, and she knocked me off into fourth. She beat me by 7 seconds. And it was that, like, sitting on the podium thinking, wow, like, I might, I might actually win a medal here. And I hadn't thought that that was possible. So it put that seed into my head about what I could achieve. And the initially you sort of, you get that excitement of what's going to happen, and then it's taken away from you and you have a bit of disappointment. But like that disappointment faded pretty quick because, yeah, I'd outperformed what I expected. And it also gave me the belief that I could come back to the next Olympics with a really big goal. Because also my preparation for Tokyo had been uh, really interrupted. I actually raced with a broken shoulder.
Oh.
So yeah, it wasn't ideal. And I thought, if I have a planned, smooth, um, you know, build up to the Paris Olympics, then I can do something really cool. So that's where like the plan to go after the gold medal started, really.
Mhm.
And did the rain impact you like more favorably, or like in Paris that was a less than ideal weather situation also?
Yeah, I don't think it's like it favored me in terms of my skill set, but I was able to stay a lot more calm and relaxed than a lot of my competitors. I could see that, yeah, a lot of riders were sort of scared about the rain. And if you watch the crashes, it was often because they were too tense on their bikes.
Mm.
And I just really focused on the fact that I needed to stay relaxed on my bike and trust my preparation and, back off my speed a little bit. But yeah, knowing that like once you get tense is like how you crash in the rain.
Yeah.
It was really just that calmness and like keeping my body loose, so that I could take the corners and not like overreact and yeah, slip out basically, because it was a
Yeah.
pretty, yeah, I know. I felt like I really backed off my speed a lot. But then when I watch back my race, I'm like, what were you doing? You're just like going hell for leather through these corners in the wet. But yeah, I think it was that relaxed mentality that allowed me to stay on my bike.
I mean, that takes such mental strength to be able to stay calm in those
Mhm.
conditions versus like, oh, I trained for 4 years for this and now the weather does this. Like it's very easy to
Yeah,
get wrapped up in the circumstances. And I think some of the best time trialists are exactly like you say. They stay calm and they can deal with whatever gets thrown at them. Do you like did you meditate? Like how do you become so like strong in moments like that?
I did work with like a sports psychologist in the lead up, and a lot of the focus was on, just blocking out all the sort of external noise and focusing on what I had to do in the moment. And I really, it was, we knew it was going to be wet, and I acknowledged that everyone had the same course, that we were dealing with the same conditions. And then I just didn't want to pay attention at all to how other people were preparing on the day or the race that was happening before I started. So I basically had no idea about the fact that anyone else was crashing. I just sort of had this bubble around me that I was just basically going out. Like, I could have no competitors for what it was worth. Like, it was just me, the course, my bike, and the conditions. So I think, I think that was really important, because as soon as you start seeing what's happening to other people, you start stressing about, the potential of that happening to you as well.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm also super curious, training wise, did you train in rainy conditions or in crappy conditions? Because at some point you're going to be racing in them. So
Yeah.
did you get
Yeah,
out when it
well,
was rainy?
I didn't mean to, but that year, so I lived and trained in Italy during my professional career, and the first half of that year was so wet in Italy. Like, I trained in the rain more than I ever have in my life, and it wasn't by design, but it's just how it was. And I guess that also meant that I was super used to riding in the rain, and the judgment that you can make about how fast you can take a corner when you've been in the rain a lot, it definitely helps. So compared to now, like, I was out, the roads were wet this morning, and I was like, I'm not sure how fast I can take these. definitely definitely lost my sixth sense on wet corners, but yeah.
Well, I mean, in 2024, everything clicked for you. What do you think you learned about yourself or about the sport during that final season that you wish you'd known earlier?
I don't know if there's anything, like, definitely what I mentioned before about the mentality that I used in the World Championships in Zurich, just like knowing that my own internal dialogue can make the difference in how hard I push myself in the seconds that that are there at the end of the race. That was a huge learning in the last year, in the time trial, being able to, I think just that belief that I can win made a big difference. I didn't change anything remarkable in my training, and I think the power that I was doing was, like, maybe I improved a little bit, but it was really the mental side of things that gave me the edge to get those results more than anything physical.
Did you mentioned that you worked with a sports psychologist before, I think you said before Paris, but I'm curious, like, throughout your career, was that something you did regularly? Is that would you say you're more of like a self-motivated self-talker, or was there some help from, other people who could really give you like strategies for how to silence the voices or how to tell them to, take the back seat?
Yeah, I think naturally I have a lot of internal motivation, and I can push myself quite deep without having specific strategies. So I didn't work a lot with sports psychologists, but I definitely did in certain parts of my career, like early on. When I had some really bad crashes, I worked a lot with a sports psych to overcome the fear of being in the peloton. And yeah, I basically just learned that you'll never get rid of the fear, but you have to be comfortable with it and use it like not use it as a fight or flight sort of thing, but just sit with the fear. So that was like a really useful thing that I learned early in my career. And then the sort of motivating thing for time trial, that was more of a specific focus coming into Paris. A bit of a reframing. Like I knew that I was capable of that mental self-talk, but sometimes you just need to redirect yourself there, and also coming into such a big competition, have a plan to use it rather than just hoping that you'll have the right tools if things sort of get flipped.
Ooh,
Sure.
yeah. And I think the self-talk, we've now mentioned it a bunch of times, and I really want to hone in on it because I think everyone listening to this while they're pedaling on Zwift has had both the voices in their head, right? The negative self-talk that's like, you're going too slow, you're going too slow. And then also the positive self-talk of like, you're amazing, you're amazing. That's sometimes is maybe actually not as helpful. So, self-compassion and self-kindness is such a big conversation right now. Everyone's all about it. We know being kind to ourselves is good. But at the same time, I think a lot of like the top people are pretty good at yelling at themselves, like, go harder. You have to go harder. You gotta go. How do you think about the negative, positive self-talk versus self-criticism stuff
Yeah.
that goes through our heads?
I think there's a difference between self-compassion and, I don't know what word to use, but like letting yourself off.
Good word. You found
And
it.
yeah, well, I was going to say being soft on yourself, but that's not right. Letting yourself off. And so you can push yourself and have self-compassion. It doesn't mean that you tell yourself it's okay. You can take a back seat and you deserve to be comfortable and have an easy life. Like I think self-compassion is like, yeah, this is hard, but you're capable of it and you can keep going. I think that's like it's acknowledging the experience and being okay with it.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, as a time trialist, someone who's always racing to be faster and just get another second out of themselves, like, where is the line between a healthy ambition and like perfectionism?
Interestingly, I've never seen myself as a perfectionist. I think you can be detail oriented. So for a time trial, you need to be across the details, like your pacing, the equipment, all of those details. But in the end, you have to like have a degree of letting go and understanding that, like in Paris, it was raining and it wasn't going to be perfect because it was raining. And all sorts of things can happen that mean it's not perfect. So you have to have that grace to like let go, even though you've prepared all the details and like this is the ideal way for it to go. You have to accept that it probably won't go that way. And in the end, the focus on race day is working with what comes at you to get the best out of yourself. So, it's the effort. Pushing yourself and getting across the line, knowing that you've given all for those circumstances, not that you've perfected the race.
I mean, everything you've said is just, I feel like, leading us to this next part of our conversation, which is your work with the Cyclist Alliance, I feel like you're the perfect person for this role, because through your experience racing, you've managed to strike a balance between things that are really hard for people to hold at the same time, which is like self-compassion, but not letting yourself off the hook, being detail-oriented, and but also not trying to control the uncontrollables. Like these are mental states that are hard for people, and so it's I'm thinking, gosh, Grace is a perfect person to be leading the Cyclist
But like
Alliance.
not
So
too perfect.
right, not
Not too
perfect, but not too perfect. Exactly. But so yeah, I think our listeners and everyone riding right now, like, can you tell us first of all just a little bit about the Cyclist Alliance and yeah, how you got involved and what you do there?
Yeah, so the Cyclist Alliance is basically like the association for the female riders in the professional peloton. And we do a range of things, but we're really focused at the moment on like the development pathway for riders. We do advocacy. So in the past, there was a lot of focus on like minimum salary for the female riders, maternity leave, safety, like anything that the riders need someone on their side for. That's what the Cyclist Alliance is there for. But in terms of development, like I think what you mentioned before, we have a mentorship program for like early career women who are just sort of making their way in the world, particularly a lot of riders from the US and Australia who, have to take themselves out of their comfortable environment to go and race in Europe, and giving them the skills to cope with the pressures of being over there. So yeah, just a real toolkit to success, how to deal with race situations and living away and pressure and all that sort of stuff. We have more experienced riders come in and tell them stories about how they've gotten through difficult times. And yeah, we've had like amazing stories come out of that. I think last year maybe 9 of our past mentees raced the Tour de France Femme, which is so cool to see like that impact. But yeah, there's also like the legal side of things. We have a lawyer on staff who helps with contracts, and if riders come into trouble with their teams, there's still unfortunately cases of riders not getting paid, or not given whatever's said in their contract, or cases of abuse, or like stuff that really shouldn't be happening in 2026. Unfortunately, we still hear about. So yeah, the Cyclist Alliance does a lot, but we're really just in the corner of the riders. Often, when the team or the race organisers or the UCI aren't standing up for them, we are.
What made you throw your hat in the ring to become the president?
I think, yeah, so it came about at the end of 2024. I saw that the Cyclists Alliance were looking for a new board member and someone to take Iris's position as the president of the board. And I sort of put my expression of interest in saying, yeah, maybe I could try being on the board, but I was a bit hesitant for the president role. But Iris came back to me and said, oh, no, you'll be perfect for president. So I think I naively was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And it's been a lot harder than I initially expected, but also really rewarding. And yeah, I think at the time one of the reasons why I wanted to be involved with the Cyclist Alliance is, even though I was done with my racing career, I still feel really connected to the sport and the progress of it. I felt a bit sad to be leaving the storyline of women's cycling. So it was a really nice way to stay involved with what was happening and still, have my part to play in the progress of women's cycling. And I think that's sort of why I wanted to do the role.
I mean, those are some big shoes to fill. I think Iris was there for 12 years. What made you said it was harder than you thought it was going to be? Can you elaborate on that?
I think, well, number one, being in Australia and the time zone makes things difficult, but also just from a connection point of view with the peloton. And in hindsight, I sort of realized this because when I was a rider, you really just focused on your racing. And when an issue comes up in the moment, you get angry and want it to be solved. But there's a bit of a disconnect in the work that needs to happen in between to actually find solutions. So connecting with the peloton, I think, in a more preemptive way is difficult. Often, so I struggle a little bit trying to get the riders to be engaged with these issues that affect them when it's not critical. But yeah, I think that's part and parcel of it, and we just work with it how we can and try and stay front of mind, I think. And the riders appreciate what we do when it sort of comes to the crunch. So yeah, sometimes you just have to keep doing things without feeling appreciated all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are doing so much, and I'm sure more than you've even mentioned in your sort of brief description of what the Cyclist Alliance does. But I'm curious, like, what you feel to be maybe the most that you've gathered from riders, what you feel to be the most pressing thing right now in women's cycling, or maybe what do you wish the UCI would do differently? Like if you could make them change something or do something, or maybe it's not the UCI, but what comes up as like the thing right now?
Yeah, the world tour is in quite a good place at the moment. Like there's been a lot of progress and professionalization there, but at the same time, we're losing a bit the levels below, and there's a real gap for riders to gain experience before going to the world tour, and big drop-offs. Like there's lots of riders that go over to race in Europe and they just can't really see the pathway once they get there. And the continental level, a lot of the races are sort of, ceasing to exist. There's been a lot of cancellations, and so the number of races for Conti level and that like opportunity there is dropping off, which is hard. And the UCI sort of isn't helping make that a sustainable pathway. There's the costs are going up, and the interest from sponsors is going down because the amount of exposure at Conti level is getting really hard to justify. So I think there needs to be a mechanism where some of the revenue from the top of the sport gets put back down into the development pathways. And this is some of the feedback that we've given. There was a recent, the UCI asked for submissions, reform submissions from basically anyone who cared to give them. And we sent in a submission with a whole lot of points that we thought the UCI could improve, and particularly just, supporting the continental level of racing and supporting that pathway better economically. I think is probably the key thing that needs to happen at this point.
You mean it's not the size of the cycling computers?
No. Not the size of the cycling computers or the front pocket, or there was something else recently that was a bit random. Yeah, there's really, I think there's like big change that needs to happen in the structure, the overall structure of professional cycling, that like at the moment, just the way the economics of it isn't really sustainable. Like you see often teams, they lose a key sponsor and suddenly they're really in a bad place.
Zonda Crypto.
Yeah, Zonda Crypto for Canyon SRAM, even like the top world tour teams can find themselves in strife if they lose a sponsor. And it's not like, how are you meant to forward plan when you're relying on money from single sources like that? And the return on investment for sponsors can be really vague. Often it's just because someone in that company has a soft spot for cycling rather than like actually seeing an economic value in it. So yeah, I think there's stuff that we can learn from other sports to sort of bring in revenue and share revenue from broadcasting across the teams and make it all a little bit more interconnected, have more of a league style potentially. But yeah, I mean, those changes are really massive. So I'm not expecting the UCI to really go down that path, unfortunately.
So what I'm hearing is your biggest rival now is the UCI.
Mic drop.
All right, bringing it back though to rivalry. I'm going to have one more question for you, and that is, if rivalry is ultimately about becoming better, what would you say to athletes who are always feeling like they're just not good enough yet?
Well, I think, yeah, it's not so much about looking forward. So if you're saying I'm not good enough yet, I think you need to focus more on the present. Like I am as good as I am right now, and working out how you can use the tools that are in your kit now and get the best out of yourself. I think, yeah, it's focusing on that and having the self-belief that you know, if you do the work, you can reach whatever your potential is. Like, you don't have to be world champion, but, you know, you can do something that's really meaningful for yourself in terms of your own achievements. I think that's what sport's about, really. Like, it's not measuring yourself against your competitors and seeing someone and wanting to be like them. It's going internal and recognizing like what's the best that I can achieve and how can I do that and how can I be proud of the effort that I've put in.
Ooh, love it. Love it so much. All right, let's wrap up there. So to just kind of conclude all of this, what Grace just described, I feel like was really just about finding these delicate balances, right? Having the self-compassion, but also pushing ourselves, wanting to do better, but still being proud of ourselves for the efforts that we've already put in. And really, that's exactly what this campaign is built around. So Rafa and Zwift's theme this year is Best Rivals and Fierce Friends, which is the idea that friendly competition is what pulls everyone forward at every level. Queen Stage is part of the series, and you can tune in to be the first to listen on the last Wednesday of every month. One episode remains on July 29th, building towards the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, August 1st through 9th, and the Rafa Women's 100 on September 5th and 6th.
That is it for us today for Queen Stage. Thank you, Grace, for joining us. And a big thanks to Rafa and Zwift for supporting this episode. If anything today made you want to find your own wheel to chase, the next Zwift community ride is Wednesday, July 29th, and we will see you there. Send your questions to info@queenstage.cc or find us on Instagram @queenstage.cc. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon with more race analysis and stories from the women's peloton.